I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled Board of Trustee meetings for January 17th at 7 p.m.
Call the roll. Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Haddad.
Here.
Mr. Genowine.
Here.
Simcoe here.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Did anyone have any comments or concerns about the minutes from the January 4th meeting?
No, I reviewed them, they're all accurate.
Okay, let's approve them as listed.
Submitted. We have Kevin making a motion and Mr. Mahoney seconding that. And Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. Do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yeah, I'll just bring up some information about the Township Association meeting last Friday night.
Hearing of the public on agenda items. Anything else, Neil? Did you have?
No, I don't have anything to add this evening.
I'll address those here in the part, don't you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
We had 3 people that signed in, 2 for TARDA and 1 for the OSU extension. If the public doesn't mind, we'll bring them up when we discuss those topics. Okay. Funding requests.
We have some people here that would like to speak last meeting, so it's...
Yes. Jason, you want to start us off?
Yeah, certainly.
Thanks for coming.
Is that the usual, or?
Name there?
Jason Robertson, Sylvania Area Family Services. I actually would like to offer you the opportunity to ask any questions that you have based on the application that we submitted, and then I also have a guest that would like to share her story of how the agency has affected her family, as well as allowed her to get back on her feet and get back to the community.
How is all the new renovations and all the updates going over there?
Moving forward, actually, we've got the shell of the building up at this point in time, and right now we've got the commitment from the plumbers and pipe fitters union, as well as the electrical union and contracting union, to donate their time to finish the interior, and we're trying to locate supplies to do that.
Fantastic.
I had some conversations with Jason earlier in the week, and one of the things that I noticed in his proposal, as opposed to any other years, is his hope to become more and more independently funded. And forgive me if I got the numbers wrong, but your goals are growing every year to continue to wean yourself. You need us, but you're continuing to grow and going down the path of some private funding, which I was honestly really impressed that you've given it some thought. I appreciate you listening last year when we had mentioned to you, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. As Neil had alluded to, we've had a lot of conversations within our board of directors of bringing some new vibrant board members on board and continue our fundraising and increase that fundraising. Again, funding fundraisers last year, as well as increase our annual campaign to encompass 2 different times of the year for that. And we increased our funding for our annual campaign this year by about $7,000. So, and the reason being is because we are soliciting and we are looking in different areas for funding and soliciting funds from individuals, businesses, and different foundations, as well as looking at several grants and forming collaborations and relationships with other nonprofits in the area to streamline our budget, as well as going forward with the Clear Community Foundation to look at other avenues for funding options as far as foundations are concerned.
Great.
Thank you. Welcome. I'd like to, if I could, I'd like to invite Shelley Shaw up to give a little bit of information. Thanks for being here, Shelley.
Hi, everyone. I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of my family and Sylvania Family Services today. I have a question for you. Have any of you ever lost your job and had to worry about how you were going to take care of your family? Or have you been lucky enough to have weathered these economic times without being too much affected? I want to talk a little bit to you tonight about how you have changed lives through Sylvania Township and through the donations that they give to Sylvania Family Services. I know your time is valuable tonight, so I want to thank you for serving your community in the way that you do. Do you mind if I tell you just a little bit about our story and what we've gone through? Some of you may or may not have seen our story on Channel 13. Jeff Smith's program had us on the round table, and they also presented our story on the 6 o'clock news. And that story was really about how your donations allowed Jason and his staff to help us and other families in times where they thought that their life was kind of crashing down around them. Have you ever had a moment in your life where you felt like that? You see, my husband and I have a small mom and pop business that specializes in recycling waste, or construction waste, and we recycle it for them. That business is also how we donate a lot of our money to our community. My husband and I both work in the commercial construction industry. Ryan's a brick mason and I'm a construction laborer. As you know, commercial construction is an early economic indicator as to how the economy is doing, and so we were feeling the crunch a full year before most people were, which means in fall of 2007, we were both laid off. Since we don't charge for our recycling services, and the only way we make money off of our business is by selling our recyclable materials, that was a big problem at that time, because the commodities such as steel had gone from $300 a ton to only $30 a ton. This meant that our income was decreased by more than 50%. How many of you could live off of less than 50% of your income? Well, needless to say, I was pretty scared. I'm a pretty tough cookie. Not a whole lot scares me. But I can remember one evening in early December of 2007, I had to call my husband down to our office that we have in our basement. And I couldn't even get the words out to tell him how frightened I was. Have you ever been there? Well, my husband witnessed something he doesn't see too often, and that was me crying. Now, I know it makes you guys pretty nervous when us ladies cry, and it especially made my husband nervous because, remember, I'm a construction laborer. I work on demolition crews, and I'm a pretty tough cookie. Can you imagine what he was thinking? Did somebody die? Well, no, nobody had died, but it sure felt that way. You see, we'd worked really hard at setting our lives up so we lived way below our means. We only had 2 credit cards to our name, and our limit was only $1,800. We only used it in emergencies, and we only used it because it was 1 year same as cash. We paid cash for everything. I tell you this because many people assume that people who have to ask for help have to ask because they were careless with their money. And that's not always the case. You see, we were doing everything right. We still ended up needing to ask for help. I mean, Ryan only worked 3 months out of the 12 that year, and he works for a local construction agency. So here I was with tears running down my face, and I had to tell my husband I didn't know how we were going to pay the mortgage that year, or that month. It was early December, and Christmas was right around the corner, and I didn't see much hope for that either. Keep in mind, my kids don't have Xboxes, they don't have PlayStations, and at the time my cable bill was under $15 a month. How many people do you know only have 15 or 5 stations on their TV? We had really been very, very conscientious about living below our means. But when our income was cut to less than 50%, I was extremely scared. Well, it just so happened that 2 of my boys were attending the Huntington's after-school tutoring program. And as he is every day, during that time, Jason was there helping the kids with their homework and making sure everything was running smoothly. And you know Jason, you know how much him and his staff care about the kids. Of course, he always asks how we're doing and how things are going. And I happened to mention that Ryan and I had both been laid off for quite a while, and I was a little stressed out of the whole thing. And Jason suggested that we sign up for the food bank, because at least then we would have that help. With Christmas coming right around the corner, he also made sure that our children were signed up with Shop for the Cop, and that he invited our family to a Christmas party that they put together for the kids, and made sure that all the kids got a gift from Santa. My son Tristan swears there's no real Santa, but I'm here to tell you, there really is. You see, we've participated in 5 of the programs that Sylvania Area Family Services offers, most recently just this December. My 14-year-old son was released from the hospital with severe depression, and at the height of his despair, he confided in a friend that he wanted to hurt himself and possibly others, and he sent it through a text message. Well, unfortunately, that's a crime. So in the middle of dealing with my son's depression, I get a call from the police department with the news that in order to keep him from being charged with a crime, we would have to go through the youth diversion program. We were just happy that it was offered through Sylvania Family Services. I'm happy to say that my son is doing well on his way to recovery. He's been volunteering at the Huntington Center in their food program through the youth diversion program that they offer. This program teaches youth and their parents better ways of handling stressful situations, and it gives them better decision-making skills. My son will be able to learn how to make better choices if he ever faces this situation again. These funds that Sylvania Family Services is asking for helps pay for operations expenses of running the center, like gas, electric, phone, snow removal. If you've ever seen Jason's car, you know he's not padding his salary with it. Jason and his staff network tirelessly with other businesses to serve the community and not to rely too heavily on any one entity for their funding. The help that Sylvania Township gives its residents through Sylvania Family Service is truly priceless. Sylvania Township's funding allows the staff at Huntington Center to focus their energies on reaching out to the community and families like mine without the added worry of wondering if they can pay the utilities and keep the doors open to the community. SAFTA served over 6,000 people last year, and 60% of those people came from Sylvania Township. However, out of the $40,000 donated by the township and the city of Toledo, only $10,000 of the funding came from the township. Did you realize that 60% of the families came from the township? Your donations have made it possible for myself and my family to get back on my feet, to receive the hand up and not a handout through SAFSA. Now we're in a position where we too can give back to the community, not just of our time and our talents as we did before, but of our treasures. we're on track as a family to give back to local charities the amount of $10,000 this next year. And we did that by your help. 5 years ago, sitting there with tears rolling down my face and wondering if we were going to lose our home, I never in my wildest dreams could have imagined that we'd be able to do anything like give that type of a donation out. But your donations helped me be successful, and so I'm going to challenge you. Don't let one family out-donate a whole township. Your donations make a difference to this community. Sylvania Family Services makes a difference to this community. We're living proof. And I'm asking you to fulfill the request that Jason has asked for and give to them the entire amount so that you can help even more families. Thank you for allowing me to share my story with you. On behalf of all the families that are served at Sylvania Family Services, we thank you for your donation.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Deb?
Good evening. Deb Cheney with Pennsylvania Community Action Team. I appreciate the time to make this presentation to you this evening. As the director of Pennsylvania Community Action Team since 1998, 14 years being with SCAT in this position, I feel it's my responsibility coming back to the community to say thank you for everything that you've helped us with, whether it's in-kind, financial donation, and any-time volunteer hours. The easiest way for me to highlight the opportunities that we have been able to bring to our community with the drug and alcohol prevention strategies is to categorize it into 3 different groups, and that's with the community, parents, and youth. And many times they overlap, and that's because they're supposed to overlap, because we can't do one without the other. Our youth is our focus. Our whole mission is to provide education, prevention, and awareness of the risk of alcohol and drugs, but in the past, there was only tobacco and alcohol we talked about. But as the years have gone on, we've added on the binge drinking, the prescription abuse that we're dealing with over the last couple of years, the choking game, the synthetic drugs that have been brought up in the last year and a half. So we have to kind of keep up with the issues, and our job is to bring it to the community so they're aware of that. We're not unique. We actually have seen a decrease in the use of alcohol among our kids. We've seen an increase in perception of risk and harm, but we can't give up on what we're doing, because if we do, then everyone's going to perceive, especially our youth, as that is not a problem, or our adults will think they're taking care of it. We got to the point of learning that tobacco as a risky activity, and our youth involvement with smoking tobacco has decreased, and the perception of that risk has increased. That goes hand in hand. But they are starting to use the non-smoking tobaccos and the snuff. So you cannot ever give up on anything. Right now, our whole focus is on binge drinking, prescription medication abuse, and the alcohol use among our youth. Within our community, we have been able to give back financially because we've had a federal grant. It's called a DFC grant, Drug Free Community Grant. We are living in year 8 of 10 years of eligibility with that. And the community support has allowed us to be eligible for that. We had to show that the community was willing to invest in us so that the federal government would invest in us. So with that, every year we have to submit that we have X amount of dollars that are coming to us. We have X number of volunteers that are working with us, and they actually sign agreements that they will be part of our organization. We've been able to allocate money for compliance checks and party patrols that go to our township and city police departments, so they can check on the businesses that can sell or serve alcohol to make sure that they're being compliant and not serving or selling to those underage. We also have monies that can go out for party patrols, so that when our youth are celebrating, and we want them to do that they're doing that in a healthy manner, so that they're not being involved with drugs or alcohol, especially around prom times, graduation, special sporting events. So we have monies that are set aside, and we can give back to our police departments in that way. We have purchased ID checkers and ID verifiers that are loaned out to different businesses as a tool to make sure that those individuals that are going to be buying or using alcohol are of appropriate ages. And we have also we also have offer service level training to our businesses. And because we have had to hire a consultant to do that seller server training, we're actually going to have 2 of our own people trained to do that, so we can have this always available to our businesses. And actually, we've had probably 7 calls within the last month and a half from different individuals that have sold to underage buyers and have been their court sentences that they have to go to seller server training. And because that training is so hard to get, we are actually going to go to a training and have 2 of our individuals within our coalition be trained so we can offer that back to the community. With our parents, we have resource guides. We have the no parenting tips that they get twice a month. We work with the schools so they get that information. We also send it to all of our coalition members and all of our volunteers that want to be in our database. And we have the Parents to Host grant that we've been getting since we've applied for and received since 2002. And again, this really speaks to the parents and the adults of our community that we have to set the high standards, that we don't let adults serve to those under 21. The mindset of taking the keys away and letting them still party and letting them sleep it off doesn't work. They need to know about alcohol poisoning and that there are things that have experienced that tragedy of losing a young person because someone was too afraid to call because that person had been drank so much and died. So these are all responsibilities that we feel that we need to do to keep our community aware of what the potentials are. We have a lot of really good kids, and the majority don't use, but the majority think that the majority do. And so we have to get that mindset that parents need to be moms and dads. They don't need to be their best friend. The community needs to keep the high standards that not to use when you're underage is the norm. We have worked with the schools to bring in youth leadership trainings. We train our kids to go and do the peer training, which really is more effective than adults talking to kids when you're talking about making good decisions about not using drugs or alcohol. We have been able to pay for training for the web and link programs in our junior highs and high schools through our grants that we have. And these are transition programs that help the students that are coming from elementary to middle school, and then that's the web program where everybody belongs. WEB, and then the LINK program is the counterpart at the high school level, where the students coming from 8th grade to the 9th grade have this transition period where they actually are working with peer leaders, again, at their own age. They can identify with these mentors so that they can actually be identifying with somebody coming into that new school. And it really helps that transition so they have more feeling of confidence in going into from junior high to high school. We work, of course, with the community events that many of you have been invited to, the 24 Relay Challenge, the Walk of Light, our Red Ribbon activities. We have the mock crash that we do every other year. And we do that in collaboration with our fire departments, our police departments, our schools, our businesses, and the community. And all those people are part of our coalition. And that is also one of the responsibilities we have as being the Drug Free Community Grant Coalition. We have to have 12 sectors represented on our board because you cannot work with a coalition unless you have all those pieces represented. So with that, I ask you to consider a request for funds so that we can maintain what we're doing in our communities like we've been doing for the last 26 years. We feel it's important that we always are there and not let down our guard. There's always new parents coming into being a new teenage mom or dad. I mean, they are the teenagers, but their teenagers are coming into that era. So whenever we think that we have a system that's like we need to tweak it, we have to look at it and say, but these parents that were 5th grade parents are now 6th grade parents and they're in middle school and they have a whole new issues to be addressed. So we can never let that go, and we feel that when the new issues come up, somebody has to be addressing that and keeping it up front. And letting parents know that they are the foundation and that the community is behind them and that the youth is our future, and we need to make sure that we can provide safe and healthy community for them. So I appreciate you listening. I know that I'm speaking to the choir, but it's important for you to know how passionate we are about the work that we do and would like to continue to do in the degree that we're doing it. Do you have any questions?
How big is the federal grant that we received for this GAP program?
we receive $125,000. This year, we have to match it by, it was a 1-to-1 match for the first 6 years. We have to match it by 125% in the year that we're living, year 8. Next year, year 9 and 10, we have to match it by 150%. So we have to show that, this year we have to show a $156,000 match for the 125 that we get, and in year 9 and 10, we have to show $187,000 match. And that can be a combination of those three things I talked about, but we have to be able to show that we can survive and be sustainable. And we do have a sustainability committee that we've been addressing. How are we going to make this work financially? What are we going to be, how are we going to collaborate with more entities? We want to work with ProMedica. We've started to work with Lord's College. They want to be part of us. There's also new college type of initiatives that we can bring in, but we have to look at who's going to do it, how are we going to pay for it. And so, there's a lot of great programs. Life of an Athlete is a fantastic program that we want to bring into high schools, and we've just got our foot in the door. And it talks about how well can your athlete perform if they are using drugs or alcohol, and it's scientifically based. So we've actually been able to get our foot in the door working with the ADs and with a couple of the coaches. So again, you can't ask for money for things unless you have a plan and know who's going to help you out with that. So those are some things that are in the wings for us, but we feel it's important that we collaborate as much as possible and look at different businesses and entities to help support us.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thanks so much for listening.
Is there anyone here from the Arts Commission?
Yes. We're looking at your new board. First of all, do you have any questions about what we submitted?
I guess a couple of us up here actually wasn't aware that the Arts Commission was moving forward. I thought the chamber or someone had told us that the Arts Commission was disbanding. So
News to us. I have a copy of something we
we'll take your word on it.
to you.
You may be thinking about a joint venture that we're doing.
Okay.
With the,
Yeah.
the chamber did decide to disband doing the Lord's
Art Fair.
Art Fair.
Yes.
But we have joined with them to try to plan a more fine art fair that will be taking place downtown Sylvania early June.
I did hear that portion. Well, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a brief overview of what you guys do and how you would utilize the monies, that would be great.
They can state their names.
And please state your names too, if you wouldn't mind.
My name is Laura Jakes. I'm president. This is Kate Conway. She is the vice president, and Kate Tuttle is our treasurer. We try to support the arts in Sylvania in many different ways. We are pretty much a volunteer organization. We have one part-time person that is paid a small fee to help maintain just administrative duties. So all the money that we get goes right back into programs and to try to help promote the art and into the programs that we try to provide kids in our community. One important thing we want to tell you is that we touch kids in the Sylvania school system. We feel like at least 3 times during their K through 12. Because the arts, there's so many cuts in the schools, we have tried to take on and fund some of those programs that had to be cut. One of those is taking, isn't it 4th graders to the museum every year. We provide the buses to get the kids there because that was a program that had to be cut. We have Opera on Wheels that comes into the schools and visits all the grade schools, correct?
Yeah, it's public and private, and it's a full opera that's condensed down to a 45-minute, child-friendly presentation. And so many communities in Northwest Ohio were taking advantage of that. And when we heard that Sylvania, never even been brought up, we offered to front half of the cost. So the schools contribute half and we help with the other half. But, I wasn't exposed to opera until I was in the 40s. So to be able to do that for fourth graders, I think is a wonderful thing.
Our orchestra, our community orchestra, which I think you know about, has been involved with us since the beginning of the SCAC. And we often do concerts in conjunction with the high schools, and that kind of brings them into, it brings both the generations of musical artists together and lets them play for another audience. We also have a theater program that is pretty much self-sustaining, but it provides after-school. Go ahead. You go talk about your
This is our 6th year for a theater program for children, and this is the 6th. In March, we're beginning our 6th year of 10-week program of theater instruction. And we offer that. The schools are very generous and give us space for that. And we have, over the years, over 250, 275 children who have taken advantage of that program. In the summertime, we also have a workshop where we have been very generously given the space by Lord's University at the Franciscan, and it's a 2-week workshop open to everyone, all children within the Sylvania School District community.
But the township school students are charged more than the city
A little bit. The city has, yes, they are, but they certainly are welcome, and I certainly want them to continue to participate, but yes, they are.
How much more do you know?
Yes, I do. I believe for the the classes that are coming up, it's $70 for the city of Sylvania students. I believe it's $85 for the township students, $90 for someone who would be on the one that's in the summertime for the workshop. I think it's, my goodness, I think it's about $120. It's about a $25 differential, I think, in the summertime also. But we probably have at least pretty consistently about half the students that participate come from the township. Very well thought of program, and hope to continue it.
Is that because of our funding levels, or how do you determine
Yes.
that? Is it,
Yes, well, that was, yes. When we initially started the program, it was the same for everyone in Sylvania, and then we had an outside, an additional fee for those who were outside the Sylvania community. And then our funding got cut, and the city maintained their level, and it was pretty hard for us to continue not to kind of differentiate somewhat. But I must tell you, they continue to come, but I would hope you could help us a little more with funding. Not just with our theater. I mean, not with the theater. The theater is just a little piece of all the things that we're doing. But thank you.
would you say your name, ma'am, please?
Oh, this is Rona Simon, and I've been chair of the theater program since it began. I'm not an officer, I didn't know they wanted me up there.
We also have started a few new programs. We have an art trail that we have done it 3 times now, which tries to get the community out to the galleries and into artist studios to let them know of the artists that work and live in our community, and get them and try to help support those artists, to bring the public to them to buy art and to experience fine art in our community. We have a lot of galleries here, and we're trying to support them as well as the artists that exhibit there. We also have a lot of future projects that have brought up. We have a lot of new life in our organization, and there's been talk of a new teen program for the theater. We have people who have expressed interest in even starting a summer college theater program for the kids that have graduated from Northview and Southview that want to come back and have some kind of a theater program in the summer. We have 2 public art installations on the Main Street Bridge and the River Trail as soon as that opens up to be unveiled. We are working on an art scholarship to Lourdes College in honor of Sister Sheila, who has passed away, as you know, this past year, who was the founder of our group. We have taken over the downtown Sylvania banners, and we're in talks about a water tower art exhibit, as you know, and a possible water sculpture at Burnham Park. We talked a little bit up front about the art fair in conjunction with the chamber, which is one way that we are working towards actually making some money from that for our group. We are coming up with a name and a logo for it, that we will sell T-shirts and perhaps posters and things that will help generate income for our group as well. And as soon as the River Trail is done, we are hoping to possibly do a sculpture garden along the path of that trail as well. So there's a lot of things we would love to do, but I feel like our group needs the assistance of our community, because being that we all do this out of the love of art and wanting to see it thrive in our community for free, we can't spend all of that time either running all these programs as well as fundraising. We're not making money doing this.
Hey, Laura, have you had much luck, or any one of you 3, have you had much luck going, like, for example, going back to the alumni of those high schools, that maybe they're successful business people?
You know, that is one,
more private monies
that is one thing. We were going to try to go out with our mailing list of people that we have that have come to the art trail and to things, and we're going to do a mailing soliciting funds as well.
Do you have any fundraisers during the course of the year? I guess fundraiser is the wrong word, but any, well, I guess it is. You guys have any, Jason every year has a dinner reception for people to come and raise money.
Right. That was, I mean,
You know, the Arts Commission really has gotten a fresh breath of air probably the last 2.5 years. And we not only have all these wonderful new fresh ideas, but we realize that we need to start fundraising as well. And for example, with the banner program, we're using corporate sponsorship for that. I mean, that's a program that, you know, the commission doesn't pay for.
And we are looking for corporate sponsors as well for the art fair as well.
And should we get into public art along the river trail or a sculpture garden, I mean, we would follow along those same lines as well.
Thank you.
Well, I certainly want to thank you for your time and dedication to the Arts Commission. I know, like you mentioned, you guys do this out of the love of arts, and the community appreciates it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here from the OSU Extension?
Good evening. I'd like to thank you all for giving us the time to present our story, and I'm really glad I didn't have to follow Sylvania Family Services. We are here requesting a continuation of the funding provided last year, which are matching funds to match Lucas County's money to support the Consumer and Urban Horticulture Program. Ohio State University Extension's mission is to educate. We take research-based information that is developed at our university and other universities across the country and provide that information to local residents. Well, a lot of the calls, I went through and did a breakdown of calls from Sylvania Township, and we have set up a polling locator when people call in, that we can check their address and know exactly where they're located. So all of these calls have been verified as in Sylvania Township. Last year, as we all know with the weather, was a perfect storm for plants and trees and everything else out there. Between the torrential rains we had, the cold, wet spring, the 100-degree temperatures in August, we had a lot of tree problems, plant problems, and a lot of additional calls and walk-ins in our office that we have not had in the past. Also, the Blade had asked us to provide a weekly column in their gardening section on vegetables, and that also increased our number of calls tremendously. With the vegetable gardening, that is one way that families are growing their own food, becoming very involved in the local food movement, and saving financial money from their grocery bills that they can use for other things. Well, a lot of people still get very upset and emotional about losing their trees. As we all know, there's hardly any ash trees left in Lucas County. The Asian longhorn beetle has been discovered in Claremont County, and they've just taken down 50,000 trees because of this invader does not really specify a specific tree like the emerald ash borer. So there's that. There's other invaders that we are on the lookout for. We had, with all of the wet weather, we had a lot of fungus. We had a lot of powdery mildew. We had trees where the leaves hadn't developed in the spring because it was so cold, so the tree didn't complete its full cycle. Then with the heat and the rain in the fall, the leaves were all falling off the trees way too early, so we're getting calls for those. On the disease triangle that I talked about with the perfect storm, you have to have environmental conditions, a specific host, and pathogens that provide the certain conditions for all of these plant problems. The fungus just grows wild in this weather, as do, we had big issues with oak wilt this year also. Oak wilt is another devastating problem with, it's a beetle that transfers between the root system of oak trees, and they die very quickly. You have to trench around the tree and destroy the roots to make it sure it doesn't spread throughout the neighborhood or the yard. We've had people call with 80 oak trees on their property that they're very concerned with losing. So diseases are one part of the calls that we get. Emerald ash borer, we received, some of them were transferred from the township, and we appreciate that. The Ohio Division of Forestry this year did have some assistance grants to assist with the removal of ash trees. So a couple of times we got calls when those were active, we were able to put people in touch with ODNR so that they could have financial help removing those trees. A lot of calls regarding fruit trees. The fruit wasn't developing properly. Cherries were being infested with worms, and that whole crop was not usable. Other questions, people are asking questions about mulching. Should they put plastic under their mulch, which once again increases insect problems, fungus problems, so we're there to offer that information. A lot of calls on perennials. 12% of your calls were on perennials. Why hydrangeas weren't turning pink, among other things. But we provide the information to help the consumer get the healthy plants that they're looking for. Insect damage to hostas. A lot of people are concerned with that. Also, it's slugs and snails, which love this moist environment. And hail damage also causes problems on the hostas that we don't see till later in the year. Shrubs, we got a lot of calls, 12% calls on shrubs regarding powdery mildew and pruning tips, which kind of run hand in hand because powdery mildew can be prevented by proper pruning. So we send out information on how to properly prune. Shrub selection for the landscape design. A lot of people are putting plants that they think is what they want right next to the foundation, and it's causing problems with the foundation. They're not putting the right plant in the right place. So we've been available to help them design the landscape to best use their property and the sun exposure and wind exposure to make sure they're putting the plant where they want the plant to be. We did a lot of information on soil testing. 15% of your calls were on soil test. And we send out to the consumer information on how to take the soil sample and where to send it to the University of Massachusetts, who in turn then sends a nutrient analysis to the consumer, and we ask them to call us when they get that report back so we can help them make sure they make the proper amendments to their soils. Trees were 4%, and a lot of it was people aren't familiar with what's normal with their plant. So one resident called, they were very concerned that the bark was falling off of their sycamore tree. Well, that's one of the very distinctive aesthetic values of the sycamore is the bark falls off. So we're educating the people as to what is normal for that plant, and it's not a problem, and what to actually be looking for. And then 7% were on vegetables, and I know a lot of that came from the Blade article, and a lot of that from people just going with the slow food movement. So we've been available for any of those questions. We've had walk-ins to identify different insects that some of us, we've never even seen what some of them are. So we find it's a very valuable service for your residents, and we ask that you once again match the county's funds to keep us operational.
I might have missed it. How many calls came in from the township residents?
I don't have the actual calls here. It was around 118, I think. And that's, March through pretty much October. And then a lot of the calls also, I have to admit, we just don't get the information you should get when it comes in, so.
I've got a couple questions.
Yes.
I forget, and this is a lack of my knowledge, so I'm glad that you were here, and like last year and spoke. But, for me, I just look on the internet, and it helped me out. If I see something I need, I look on the internet and see why my bark's falling off a tree. I'm not saying this, I wouldn't know to call OSU Extension, or I'd call Black Diamond, or I'd call, Lawbert.
Black Diamond calls us.
Okay.
Black Diamond calls us, Anderson's call us. I mean, they tell their clients to call us.
Okay.
Also, it's research-based.
Are they, just kind of go down that path here, have you had any luck, have you had any luck with Anderson's or Lowe's or any of these companies to help for your funding, help get you guys to increase your...
We can't do that because we're non-biased. So we can't go to the companies and ask for their support because they in turn would want us to recommend.
Well, what about through the, like landscaping, they have these big associations like they do in the concrete association. Could you go through an association of the landscaping industry and try to woo them additional monies?
Well, we've not tried that approach, but it's this has come from, back in the early 90s with Gypsy Moth, and the county had, put this all together. So we have not gone outside of the municipality.
And the Gypsy Moth is a separate bill that we...
No, this is all inclusive. It's all inclusive. But Gypsy Moth is one that is very cyclical, and, it can hide for 5 years and then just shoot out all over again. So it's very hard to predict.
One last question. The monies that we pay is a match. So do you size that according to township and in population? Or?
We used to do it based on tree coverage, which for Sylvania Township was not a fair analysis. So we did go back this last cycle and have based it totally on population.
Okay.
So it's on the population of Sylvania Township.
So you're asking for the same amount last year. You based that on tree coverage last year or population?
No, it was population last year.
Okay, very good. All right, thanks.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much.
Good, you didn't have any horticulture questions.
Gentlemen, do we want to vote on the funding this evening? I know last year we spoke about not giving the presentation and funding in the same evening to avoid any conflicts. Do we want to go ahead with it? I think we've waited enough.
Do you want to vote on it tonight, or you want to discuss it?
It doesn't, I can go either way.
Well, let's discuss it, and then...
Well, I guess I'm going to...
Why can't we do this? Could we talk about it in executive session?
No, this is public.
Yep.
This is not private. Basically, I'm going to be honest. We're in a situation with the economy and everything. That was part of my discussion later on to discuss about the Township Association. They are cutting our funds totally in townships. The city passed an upside-down budget this year in Sylvania City, and they gave up their tax holiday because, for the simple fact, they don't have the revenues to keep going upside down. They're spending a lot of their savings. We passed a slightly upside-down budget this year, which I wasn't too thrilled with, and in 2 more years, we're going to be almost $500,000 upside down with the cap tax being dissolved, and, I'll be proper to say the estate tax is going to be depleted too by 2013. So with those funds going for townships, we're going to be hurting for monies in these areas. And I understand a lot of people need a lot of community service cash, but we're going to have to make agreements on how much we really want to give of our budget to that. That's why when John and I came on, we made the $25,000, and we thought it was fair because Dee Dee and Pam had wiped it all off, so.
And I think we've been very consistent with our message,
Yes.
is that
Money's tight.
money's tight, and, you know, we want to help, but, you know, we're trying to scale that back as well. Well, for the Savaigne Family Services, they were our top receiver of monies last year. We gave, their request this year is for $35,000. Last year, I don't know what the request was, but we paid them $10,000. Do we want to continue with that funding level, or?
I personally, I think they're doing a great job. I don't have a problem with the $10,000.
Me neither.
Okay. We'll just take this as a vote at the end, Mr. Senko?
Right.
Okay. The second was the OSU extension. They requested $4,000, we gave them $4,000 last year. Do we want to continue with that level? Is that an all or nothing situation if we back that down to $2,500 or $3,000?
You can do any amount you want. It's not all or nothing. It's based on,
How many calls did you say, Barb, about 140, 150?
113.
113?
Logged, but there were many others. We had
About $35 a call.
Yeah.
100 calls overall.
Well, I do think, you know, in this area,
We have a lot of
we are
trees.
tree
hater, except for, you know.
And when something hits us like the emerald ash borer or the gypsy moss, you wish you had those resources then.
Yeah, because they have oak openings down there too in the region too, south of us.
Yeah. Well, do you guys want to continue, or do you want to
Is that
scale back?
4,000, or what do you want to do?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, I guess if I go for it this year, next year, I'd love to have, I want to hear a plan with what you're doing on the private side and how you're raising money with associations and, you know, I just, all of us are, I mean, John's right. I mean, we're just in a real jam with this thing, and I mean, I'd love to get $35,000.
We totally understand,
Yeah.
but like I said, we have to be non-biased.
Well, how disappointed would you be if we cut it back $1,000?
Extremely, I know, Barb.
We'll take whatever.
Okay.
Okay. Kevin, are you in agreement with that $3,000?
If you guys want to drop it, well, I don't know, do you want to go down just 10%, down to 3,600, or? What do you think about that? Is that okay?
Whatever.
Okay, let's do that.
Yes.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Okay.
Then SCAT is requesting $19,500. Last year, we gave them $3,000.
3,000. Funding is tough for SCAT. I'm on the board. I give my own personal money, some of it to SCAT and my time, so that helps out a lot, but it's going to be tough. I don't know how much you guys want to do on SCAT.
I think it comes down to a kind of catch-22, as Devin mentioned, with the federal monies being
Right.
here. I don't want to leave her out to dry. I personally like to do what we did last year.
Or would you like to increase it since they're going to have to match more funding to $4,000? I mean, it's up to you.
Well, I think we've got a plan next year. She's got a plan, she's got 2 years, and then she's going to kind of be on her own. So I
Right.
think she needs to start learning how to wean off this a little bit. I mean,
Okay,
that's a
so
bad
you
way.
want- So you still want to keep the 3,000 then?
That sounds good.
Is that okay with you?
I'd like to keep this,
Okay. Okay.
I'm kind of following the path of the same as last year.
That's fine.
As a whole.
No, that's okay.
So,
Arts Commission? Rona's group back there?
They requested $10,000, and last year we gave them $2,000.
What do you think?
I'm real weak when it comes to this. I don't really have an opinion, to be honest with you.
You have to have an opinion.
I really don't. I mean, I probably should have done my homework better on the Arts Commission, because I didn't think they...
that are going in the right direction, that's what I say.
I'm a big believer in the arts, and I've got many nieces and nephews who are very involved in it. I am a big, I think I surprised Kevin last year when I
You
voted
surprised me
yes
a lot.
on it. So I am a supporter of it. I do think there's a lot of things that, I know there's a turnover in the board, they're kind of getting their legs underneath them these days, but I do see a lot of areas that they could work with the Chamber of Commerce and work with the art galleries and things. So again, I'll go along with what we funded them last year, but with the hopes of, getting some of the talent sitting up here to help raise some funds and to help, I'm on the Chamber board as well, kind of work together on this stuff to make the funding go.
So you still want to give them the 2,000?
Yes.
You want to give them the 2,000? Okay.
Okay.
Sylvania Fireworks, I just mentioned to you guys right now, that we're at 8,500, but we are getting more and more donations to privatize it more, so it's going to be less than the 8,500.
That's what I'm counting on too.
So is that okay with you, to still give the 8,500, but we're going to be doing substantially less? Because we have several donations that we're
We'll vote on that later in the year.
But I'm just saying, just so you guys give a head up on that.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And soil and water, we haven't, is anybody from soil and water here? I didn't see anybody.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
From the soil and water district. They're not here, but I haven't seen anybody, so. We gave them $2,000 this year. They're not asking for anything this year?
Okay, so we've got $10,000 to Sylvania Area Family Services, $3,600 to the OSU Extension, $3,000 to SCAT, and $2,000 to the Art Commission. Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah, I think we take a motion.
I think we should.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney, second. Okay, I'll call the roll. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thanks for everyone's time.
Next item on the agenda is the zoning department, and Daryl's here to do the monthly report.
Do you want the month or the year?
Give us just a cap of the year on how the trends and things, anything you saw that stood out to you. Try and make up some time here, not on your watch, but,
Yeah, I understand. Pretty much 2011 finished very close to 2010. We had 340 permits in 2011 and 351 in 2010. 49,500 in 2011 and $37,500 in 2010. The difference of 12,000 is pretty much, if you look on September of 2011, you'll see it there, the new residential new construction, and that's the Sylvania Senior Apartments on Percentum. That's pretty much the difference between the 2 years. The big hitters were fence permits and sign permits, as they were in the previous year.
That's awesome. Thanks, Darren.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I went over and looked at the construction site.
which one?
There's none of, yeah, because Carolina went, there's an elevator, because it's 3-story, and there's an elevator
I
shaft
would think
inside.
it'd have to be.
Yeah, I was in there.
BZA and Zoning Commission, we had 20 cases in the BZA and 29 in the Zoning Commission for 2011. We don't have that information available for 2010 to do a comparison.
Anybody have any questions for
I
Darryl?
know. Thanks so much. Appreciate you laying it out there.
You have anything else? Okay.
No.
Thanks, Darryl.
Sure.
We're going to do about the zoning resolutions? or-
Oh,
We have the resolutions to
We
pass the
have-
zoning amendments.
the PUD,
Yeah.
I think in an effort to save time, we'll,
I was going to say, with Tim not being here, I did have a couple questions I wanted to ask
Okay.
him. I was wondering if we could just defer it for one more
Is that
month.
okay if we defer it and have a discussion with you about it?
Sure.
Okay.
When Tim gets in tomorrow, we'll talk about that, I guess.
okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Darryl.
So then the public
You're just leaving it tabled,
to the next meeting.
So, yes, so we will continue the public hearing.
unless you want to hold the
Until
public
the
hearing
next
now,
meeting.
but I think we got.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a motion.
No, we're still continuing, because we continued it, did we make a date to put it tonight?
So you continued it to tonight's meeting?
Tonight, and now we're just...
Okay, so we'll just continue it to one more meeting.
To the February 7th meeting.
Yeah.
All right, and then the Public Works, Greg has two resolutions for you to explain.
Good evening. Recommending Resolution 12-011. This authorizes Mr. Zeitler to act as CEO, Administrator, and execute the contracts for the 2013 OPWC project.
I'd like to offer Resolution 12-011 to authorize John Zeitler to be our CEO for the OPWC projects.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
Next resolution, 12-013, we, by law, are required to accept public roadways into the township maintenance system. I think this is the first road we've accepted in the last 2 years.
Cranberry?
Cranberry Lane, which is off of, up in the 12 Lakes area, Lake and Creek. So, but I recommend that we accept this roadway into our maintenance system.
I make for Resolution 12-09 to accept Cranberry Lane into our township system.
That's a dead-end road though, right?
Yes.
That's a...
Yes, it's actually cul-de-sac, but it's called Cranberry Lane.
It's unplatted in the back side of it though.
Yes.
Okay, second.
Well, do you want to have discussion on it now?
No,
Are you okay? Okay.
You, Mr. Mahoney? Hold on, you didn't say Resolution 12-09, it's 12-009.
009. I've got 009 over here.
Yeah, but it should be 13.
13?
Yes.
Well, you know, it came up as 13 and shows 009 here, so 12-013
Thanks.
to correct that.
Okay. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Next time on the agenda is the fire department with their brief monthly report.
Brief monthly.
Very brief monthly report.
Especially since it's all online now.
You have before you the monthly report for December 2011, as soon as Jim gets it up. We'll go to page 2 to start off with. We were slightly lower, about 10 runs in December, our fire calls compared to 2010 to 2011. We did have an incident on Stone Lake, a garage fire that the crews, quick response to that fire, put the fire out while it was still in the garage, and it didn't extend at all into the, that's page 3, Jim. Didn't extend into the house proper. They got there very quickly, gained access to the garage and put it out. Page 4, our EMS calls for service. Again, 2011 and 2010, comparing the two at the bottom of the page, we were slightly below what we had in 2010, about 14 runs down. Page 5, mutual aid incidents. I know you're particularly want to watch this very closely, and in December we received mutual aid once from Springfield Township on an injury accident, and we gave out mutual aid 3 times. Once to Springfield Township on a structure fire, a second to Springfield Township to fill in at one of their stations while all their crews were out on an additional fire, and once on Whitefield Road and State Line Road, we had an injury accident with Ottawa Lake Fire Department where we rendered aid to them. All those entities are part of our mutual aid contracts. Page 6.
Can you run the numbers for us on that this year? How many mutual?
Yeah, yes, sir, I'll have the end of the year report prepared for you, and it'll go ahead and run all those numbers for you. Community risk reduction, we did 2 smoke detector checks and 5 public education events. Building and project plan reviews, Deputy Chief Freilich did 10 plan reviews, several home inspections for adoptions, a couple license inspections for preschool and daycare facility, and 6 environmental reviews for properties that are pending sale. On page 7, a little bit about our training. There were none of the paramedics went to any of the overtime Continuing education in December, as I said, November, December were off months for us. We started again in January. The subject matter is geriatrics this month, and next month will be pediatrics. Crews in the winter months under the training, we did winter ops, practicing winter ops, and we also went through the ice rescue scenarios. Unfortunately, we don't have any good ice on any of the ponds, but the water is cold enough for hypothermia to set in case somebody were to go in. So we did practice those challenges that we have. As soon as the ice starts to form, we'll have the guys out on the ice practicing in the ice water or ice rescue suits. And then they also did some training on the new thing people are doing with chemical suicides, mixing different chemicals together in their enclosed rooms or cars and then killing themselves. On the public relations page 8, we did a return to the scene of the fire for that garage fire we had in the neighborhood, where we got into different homes, tested their smoke detectors, installed new smoke detectors, and gave away free batteries to those that didn't operate. Again, that public relations thing that we do is getting us a lot of good PR from that community, or from the communities that we go into. We also did a shop with the hero. That was in December, where members from the fire department and the police department both were part of that, where we take a child out to Myers, and we did some shopping with them for Christmas. And that's all I had, unless you have something for me. Thank you. 2 minutes.
Very good.
Duly noted.
I would like to add that if you've checked our website under Hot Topics, the fire department is doing an excellent job of updating and putting things on there.
I was going to make that comment earlier. I do have to give Greg the nod. It seems like his department is leading the way in the website, but I go out there and I have been checking on it regularly, and I am pleased to see everybody's getting their stuff out there.
Right, and we've just got a little bit more training to do and a couple things, and we'll be all set. Next item is the police department with their monthly report. Brief.
Brief, huh? Page 2. You'll see actually the dispatch report annually. I'm not going to read off all the numbers, but you can see that 2009 to 2011, our calls for service are staying amazingly consistent. Page 3, as far as our monthly calls for service, again, pretty consistent. We're up a little bit one month, down another. We had 1,352, so we're down from November. November and October were about the same. Page 4, ORC citations, traffic tickets, we're down a couple hundred at this point. Property damage accidents, we're down slightly, which is a very good thing. The injury accidents, we're up by a few. Again, that's 2010 to 2011. Offense reports and we've talked about this before, of significance. Our burglaries are up considerably, from 97 to 117, 2010 versus 2011. Oddly enough, our robberies are down. Of course, we get very few of them, but they are down about 10%. Domestic violence, a crime that really police presence has no control over, is very consistent. Assaults, again, usually an offense that is not controlled by a police presence, is very consistent. The OVIs were down. The thefts were up considerably, and the reports were up somewhat. So as you can see, overall crime is pretty consistent, but we are experiencing some more property crime, and I'll explain that or get into that a little bit here in a minute. As far as page 6, the detective caseload stats, the total number of cases assigned for the month of December were 69. The cases cleared from that total were 30. The current month, that leaves 39 that are currently active. They solved 25 from prior months for a total clearance number of cases of 55. I'll Skip to page 9. Again, community affairs activities. We had talked about that before. We participated with the fire department in Shop with a Hero at Myers. That was 16 kids involved in that. Shop with a Cop at Walmart was 60 kids, and that was a pretty rewarding experience. We had an open range December 12th to satisfy our contractual obligations. We have 4 open ranges where officers can, on a voluntary basis, they have the regular training, mandatory training in the year, but we have 4 open ranges that they can voluntarily participate in, and we had one in December to fulfill our contractual obligation of 4 of those a year. Skipping to, I won't again read all the figures on page 11. You can see the money we received from court revenue and some of the money we received through our seizures with our task force and such. Page 12, the last page you'll probably have there, you can see that for the year we had almost 4,000 hours of training. That was 68 courses, and obviously the 240 enrollees. That's an error in the report, being we only have 45 officers. That would be a little difficult. But what it does is it counts the officers, multiple times and such. One thing that, moving on here to a few pages that you will not have, I just want to add that as far as task force highlights, and we've been talking a little bit about increased crime and the reasons and such, our officer in the FBI Fugitive Task Force with his unit, conducted an Operation Code Blue, targeting gang members. Obviously, this is more in Toledo, and their drug houses. During that operation, approximately 20 search warrants were conducted, resulting in the seizure of 12 weapons, $23,000 in illicit drugs, and arrest of numerous gang members. The driving force of this operation was the several recent shootings and homicides in the gang strongholds revolving around drug sales and the robberies of drug houses. Of notable interest in the township here, the task force units assisted the township, our detectives, in conducting surveillance on several occasions during drug buys with a known source. Specifically, it was Westridge Apartments there off of Elmer, across from Crosby Gardens, and they made an arrest there and seized a large amount of heroin and approximately $6,000 of illicit cash. Again, of notable interest, because we've been talking about property crime, I had Sergeant Caldwell, our supervisor in the Detective Bureau, give me brief summaries. You may or may not be aware of this one. I know you're aware of the second one. We had a couple of B&Es recently, January 3rd and January 9th. I know we're talking about December, but very quickly to gas stations at Giant Eagle and BP on Central Avenue, where they smashed out the glass and stole cigarettes. Toledo's had a huge number of those kind of thefts, or B&Es. And based on a surveillance videotape, they were able to develop a suspect. And gosh, it was just last week, they were sitting on a suspect, and the suspect started to roll. And during the course of just following him, this guy decided to run on him. Actually ran into our cop car. Thank goodness our 2 detectives weren't injured or what. He fled on foot. He was able to escape, at least right at that time. The detectives returned to the hotel where they had started the surveillance, and we were able to very convincingly persuade his girlfriend, who returned to the apartment, to kind of work with them. And the suspect actually ended up, through that persuasion, coming back where they were able to make an arrest. And obviously, it's not just the B&Es anymore, it's felonious assault and all that sort of thing. So that's some of the kind of work that our detectives are doing. They're doing an excellent job, and I might add they're very busy right now. The other one I know that you're interested in are the sewer grates, okay? And you probably, you may know those from from talking to Mr. Huffman. He helped with the investigation, but, as you know, we did the Crime Stopper type thing, and we were able to identify a suspect through that, and subsequently, the detectives were able to locate the Greats at King Road Auto Parts down in Angola in Springfield Township, and in the report it states that they actually recovered 38 of the 40 stolen Greats, and I don't know what those are worth a piece, but they're worth quite a bit. So that was a good operation. The one thing I want to add is in both of these, the B&E suspect and the sewer Greats, these, I won't use an adjective, I wanted to. These people, okay, are drug addicts, and they're stealing to supply their drug habit, and we're seeing that more and more out here. I talked a little bit the last meeting about the heroin and that sort of thing, but that's a lot of it's filtering out here to the township from Toledo. So
we were able to make an arrest in the sewer grate?
Yes.
Great.
Yes. So that's some of the good work they're doing. They have been very busy. As I mentioned, I believe last month, some of our burglaries, Merriweather and some streets, some of the residences up there, they've been able to effectively make good felony arrests on all those too. But unfortunately, it seems like they arrest one, and there's another one to fill that niche or fill that void.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then very briefly, just want to mention two of our officers, Officer Case and Officer Mall. They were involved in a call in which a woman called and reported that her boyfriend was intoxicated and very depressed and threatening to jump off a bridge. She actually contacted Deputy Chief Carroll and explained that she was very, very grateful for how the officers responded to the call. They were obviously able to talk to him effectively and help him out. And she states specifically that it was amazing that they were able to show her the compassion at the same time and try and help them work through their problems and such. And she felt so strongly that, as I said, she called the deputy chief and reported that. So Deputy Chief, in turn, went ahead and wrote a letter that will go on each of those two officers' files. Some of the good work that our officers are doing. And that's all I have. If you have any questions or... Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Okay. They're doing it. Thanks.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is under the administrator, and it's going to have a discussion on TARDIS/transportation issues.
We have two people that signed in to speak on that subject. So Jessica Weinberg.
I have not really heard any updates since the meeting with Mr. Rubino, but as far as I know, there isn't really I wondered if the item being on the agenda tonight meant that he had some sort of proposal he'd submitted to you that you were discussing. Not having heard it yet, couldn't comment. I didn't, maybe we should have commented after. But I think the thing to point out, we've talked a lot about why we as people that ride TARDA aren't very comfortable with the prospect that you might opt out without a plan in place. You've of course explained why you felt the timing was kind of not on your side as far as either opt out now or collect the taxes through 2013. And I think the only conclusion we can really come to is that a lot of the real problems with this system really go back to that state legislation. I know people in Perrysburg and here were upset with the original rule that no jurisdiction could opt out unless all the jurisdictions agreed. This new law seems to have kind of been passed, it was an amendment to the budget bill, of course, in response to that, but it seems to be, again, this kind of no-win situation of the short window to opt out, not a lot of time to construct an alternative plan, and not a lot of time to get out without leaving the taxes for 2013. So I think something to look at is, for everybody, whether the Ability Center, the agencies, the charter riders, and also the local governments, it seems like there needs to be some lobbying or some advocacy, whatever word you want to use, to the state government. Some changes need to be made to how these systems are run. It looks like it was in response to somebody's request that the original change was made, so I think they are listening, at least to the local governments.
Thank you. We're hoping the same thing. Tim Harrington.
Good evening. My name is Tim Harrington, and I'm the Executive Director of the Ability Center. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. For the last 6 or so months, there's been a public debate about transportation in the township and in Perrysburg. And as you will know, the Ability Center has taken a back seat to that discussion and allowed the advocates to have a voice. I'm here tonight to say we're done being quiet. We're done putting the issue of transportation, which is one of the key components of independence, at risk for our constituents. It's a game of chicken, and we're heading for a real bad situation. There is no plan in place. There is no plan. There's an idea of a plan, but there's no plan. There's not been a public debate about the support of the township going this route. It's been a small discussion amongst a small group of people. We believe that there's citizens of this township that feel strongly about pulling something away that you already have. There's been no proof that you can replace that with the same level of service that you currently have. So, the Ability Center is going to be outspoken about our concerns. We're going to allow people who are our constituents, who do not have disabilities, who live in the township, to have their voice. We are going to be the purveyor of information about facts, about who's going to be hurt, about who comes to this township, and about what the real debate is about. Next week, we'll begin the public discussion about this issue. Expect to have your constituents let you know how they feel, because we're going to encourage them to do that, and we're going to encourage people to start telling the story accurately. Thank you.
Thank you. Wait, if you wouldn't mind answering a few questions. One of my biggest disappointments with TARDA is their inability to provide us with information about the ridership, whether it be, throughout the entire TARDA jurisdiction, or specifically that I care about is the township. How many people that utilize the Ability Center that have handicaps that utilize TARDA on a daily basis? Do you know?
I don't have those numbers. We have people accessing our center. We have people going over to Central Avenue to go shopping. I mean, part of what this discussion is all about is having a system in place that allows people to cross jurisdictions. If that's not available, then it severely hampers the system. So, what TARDA has been able to give you or not give you is really a TARDA question. I'm here tonight to talk about our constituents, our people that we know. If you do any community survey with regard to folks with disabilities, the ability to access public transportation is the #1 concern. And if you take that away, you're talking about people being able to get to hospitals, get to shopping, do all the things that when you jump in your car, when you walk out of this building tonight, and you jump in your car and you get up in the morning, tomorrow morning, and you jump in your car, that's not a way of life for many citizens in this community. Those are the people I'm talking about.
I understand. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
My comments is that I am a firm advocate of public transportation. Don't say that. Because I've been to transportation summits, I came up with ideas for alternate forms of transportation depth. I've worked on transportation. My problem with TARDA, in particular, is they came to us and said, let's go to a sales tax. First of all, Mr. Genowine said this before, and I can quote him. If I run my business...
I would appreciate not being...
No, this is true, though, and I agree with you on this when we made the decision. That I am a firm believer that if you run your company the way they run TARDA, we would be out of business. TARDA worries about two things, money and how to get more. Especially now, since the advertisement has gone up to such an extreme level, instead of improving their service. Now, Mr. Mahoney has a company, I have a company, Mr. Genowine works for a company, we're all businessmen. And if we don't watch our bottom lines and our dollars at our companies, we go out of business. TARDA's concern is not for you, because when Mrs. Contrada was running against Mr. Sarantu to the Ability Center, 75% of the people in the rooms questions were about TARDA and how ineffective and uncontrolled they were and how they did not arrive on time and they were not providing a great service. We have done a study, and our study proves that we could do it for 25 to 30% of what TARDA is charging us at a more effective and better system in the township. You have other communities that don't provide transportation. Springfield, Monclova, and Oregon are major areas that do not provide any public transportation at all. We just put the question on the ballot to our residents if they want to keep TARDA or not. If this fails, step 2 is I have several companies, because when our study came back, it was been what I've been saying for 6 months. Several companies will come forward. We can put a smaller levy on the ballot and see if the people are willing to pay for a smaller form of public transportation that would satisfy our residents in the capacity that they need, including the people with abilities that need to get mobility to the Ability Center or other places. These things can be addressed, but we have to know what our people want first before we make that decision.
Okay, one thing I will clarify with you is that the survey you did about customer satisfaction was years ago, and I believe that this community would report back out to you now a high level of satisfaction with TARP services, and the fact that their numbers have increased the way they have. I don't think you're comparing apples to oranges here. I think there's a very high level of satisfaction.
Well, in 6 weeks we'll find out, because the election will be won, and if it passes and people want to keep Tarta, we move on and we don't deal with it anymore. At least our residents have spoken. That's my opinion.
Last week, the township had an informational meeting where the 3 trustees and Mr. Simcoe and our legal counsel, John Burrell, were all there. And it was, we didn't converse, but we listened. And, you know, our alternate plan was, like you said, to come up with a tax levy that would be substantially reduced from our current contribution levels to TARDA. It does not appear that we are going to have success in passing that levy.
We all know that.
Because the city of Sylvania would also vote on that levy. And with them not opting out of TARDA, they would actually be double taxed for transportation.
But we're going to have 28,000 residents compared to 16 to 18,000 residents, so we're like a 3-to-2 ratio on the city, and whatever comes, what mays would be whatever. I mean, that's what my personal opinion is, and if it doesn't go and we don't go that way, I mean, you know, I think the cards need to fall where they fall. Whatever happens, happens, and we have to just deal with the results. That's my personal attitude.
I will say the one thing that has been bothering me lately is the fact that I don't think either side is going to have enough time to get their voice out. And I mean, Mr. Harrington is here. He had to sit through a fairly long meeting to this point to get up and speak on his subject. And I'm just concerned that we might be overlooking somebody. I do think as as an elected official, I think TARDA is the #1 complaint that I get.
It is.
So, I mean, I don't want to beat around that bush, but I don't want to pull the rug out from somebody who's depending on it. And I don't know. Anybody have any?
No, please. At the informational meeting, originally when we were talking about opting out of TARDA and doing a plan, it was our understanding at that time that it would be just the township residents at that time.
Would just the township residents vote to opt out, not the city residents?
That's correct. But then when we were talking about the plan, it came to our attention just last week, and Mr. Burrell briefed you on this, is that since it would be classified a general operating levy, that the city of Sylvania residents would be able to vote for that. So we'd have township residents voting to opt out, all residents, city and township residents voting for any levy. And as you mentioned before, the city of Sylvania has determined not to opt out, so those people will continue to pay the 2.5 or 2.25 levy for TARDA, and then be voted on an additional operating levy for just the township area of transportation services. And that kind of threw a wrench into our original plan when we found this would happen.
Thanks, John. Neil speaking here. Back in December when I said that, we needed to put this on the ballot, I prefaced one thing by saying that we need to have a plan. And I hope that you guys in the public know what I mean by having a plan is not, a report that we got from Mr. Rubino, which is an outline of a plan, but not a plan. I think sometimes in the political world, people think we pull the rug out of somewhere because we said we're going to do something that, this in my heart tells me that if we put this on the ballot in March, that the public and the people will think that we pulled the rug out because we don't deep down have a plan that's legitimate and for the people to consider. And I propose putting on the November ballot. I want the people to decide here. This isn't, we made the hard decision to put it on the March ballot. Okay? And I'm still making the hard decision to put it on the November ballot. And if we don't have a plan in November, I can honestly look people in the eye and say, I don't have a plan come November, but it's on the ballot.
I understand we're going to be paying for TARDA for 2 more years then.
Well, like somebody said, we could possibly work through your organization to get legislation changed. But just as a little FYI, the TARTA levy here in the township, has been very close the last two times it's come up. So in 2007, it was defeated here within the township, 53 to 46.
Correct.
And in 2010, it passed 50 to 49.
7 votes.
Yeah. So I think it's fair to let people get their voice out. And because, my goal had always been through this is to work with TARTA to make it a better system, and certainly for the residents of Sylvania Township to get what they're paying for. I think the report from Mr. Rubino, it shows a lot of the things that a lot of us had suspected, that we're getting much less of service than we're paying for.
Definitely.
And again, I'm very frustrated in the fact that TARTA cannot provide us with any solid information on the people that utilize it and depend on it. How can you have a business or any entity that does not have that common information available? How do you know who you're providing service to? But they continue to not be able to provide that. So the report showed me nothing that I wasn't expecting. My thing is, I definitely think that we need to have a little bit more discussion and to get both sides of the opinion out there. And I think possibly delaying this to the November ballot is fairly prudent, and then during that meantime, working out with the state legislation to change that so they would have to provide service. And if they didn't, then that would be another nail in TARTA's coffin. If they want to collect the tax for a full year and only provide us service for 3 months, I think most people would be fairly frustrated with that entity.
I have a meeting down in Columbus at 8 o'clock regarding this Friday.
Okay.
So I'm working the wheels with the legislation. We're going to get this thing done right, and we're going to let us say what we need to say. Again, we don't have a plan. I feel like we're pulling the rug out of the citizens, and I feel that we may.
Do you want to have a special meeting on this after you go to Columbus tomorrow and wait
I'm
for the
going
vote?
Friday.
We have to...
We need to make a decision.
We don't have to make the decision until next week because it has to be on by, I thought, we have 3 weeks, don't we?
The Board of Election is waiting for the answer for...
They're sending the ballots out now, though.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mr. Bell, you want to...
May I make one statement before John talks? Under Mr. Rubino's report here, it says recommendations. Sylvania should design a transit system after closely observing other similar models. I suggest the township observe the cities of Newark and Bowling Green. Bowling Green has a great model that's closely geographically and smaller footprint than Sylvania Township. Operates few hours a week and currently available to Sylvania Township through TARTA. Newark receives its transit from a private contractor in Licking. This contract model has been effective for more than 30 years, and since we're very similar. I'm just saying if they vote on it now, and it does go away, we have 6 months to the general election to come up with the 3 or 4 companies here to get a replacement model in place, put it on the ballot, because either way, it's got to go on the ballot for the people to want to see if they want to do it. Even if we say we have a plan in place, doesn't mean the voters are going to want to pay the tax for it or not. So, you might be putting either way, unless you can get the people to agree to pay for it, and then vote out of TARTA.
Actually, I called Bowling Green about this, and I don't know Newark, but that is on a city income tax.
Correct.
Okay, we don't have a city income.
No, we don't.
So how are we going to collect for it?
We would have to collect, like you said before, but that's what I was
We're
working
going
on.
to collect for it and hope that the city of Sylvania would say...
No.
No, but so why wouldn't we wait and talk to
That's fine, you guys can make that decision.
Let's give it an honest effort to try to see if we can get this done right.
Do what you...
No, I'm not saying, I'm just...
And actually, we had, I want to compliment Trustee Hader, we actually had a little bit more clout with him president of the
OTA, I agree.
association up here, and I can't guarantee what legislators will do, but it's not major what we're asking for.
No.
It's just a small change in the legislation that enabled us to opt out, and I think...
As you president, that's a good point.
Yeah, so, but my concern, as I understand all the trustees' concern, my concern is my opinion, I'd like to have that legislation changed in place before.
That's fine.
So we know in November we can say, the legislation's changed, now just the residents of Sylvania will vote for it, or however we want to, change the, but, you can't guarantee what legislators should do at this point. You can hope they'll change it, but I'd like to actually to see that they did change it.
I mean, the biggest key to any plan is the funding. And right now, our funding is, a long shot at best.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you stated that the city of Sylvania only had, it's a 3-to-2 ratio.
They're 2/5 of the township, of the whole township, and we are 3/5. If it does go on to vote, and the people in the township are gonna want an alternate plan, they're gonna vote for it, and the city would vote no against it because they'll be double paying, but then again, the service would incorporate the city, and they would be able to utilize it. So if you have somebody who wants to go to the senior center, Lord's College, any of that stuff in the township, they want to go out to Myers, they would still get a ride to Myers, no cost, no charge, whatever we do.
Well, that's something the report says, is that the boundaries aren't, going to be there. It's not going to be a township service. But again, my thing is the funding. If there's no funding, there's no nothing.
That's fine.
I'm a little, this did put us a step back, or...
Well, we're always worried, again, it's going to be funding, no matter what. I mean, even if we vote to get out of TARDA, sooner or later, it's going to be if the people are willing to pay for something else. If the economy turns worse, I guarantee you, no one's going to pay for anything else. Because I don't want to pay for anything else.
I think one of the concerns was, at the time, we thought it was just going to be the people in the township.
I understand that, and I know you want the legislation in place, and I can take care of that, and make sure that OTA is going to be on the agenda.
Right, and the original question about Mr. Burrell is that we have to vote on it tonight, because the Board of Elections will wait till tomorrow to either pull it off the ballot or put it on the ballot. So that's why we're talking about it tonight.
That's fine.
He's been in contact with the Board of Elections, and they're actually waiting for us tomorrow.
Some good overtime down there.
I'm saying, I might add, if you take no action, it's on the ballot in March. What we would have to do is pass a resolution, if you so desire, to rescind the previous resolution asking the Board of Elections to put it on.
We are at Resolution 12-014.
I think we're at 1.5.
1.4.
When we close, don't we have to have that one there, or no?
I would like to offer Resolution 12-014, authorize the recession of Resolution 11-205, and withdrawal of the certification to the Lucas County Board of Elections, the request of Sylvania Township's withdrawal from TARDA.
Second.
I would also like to state that it is my intention to put this on the November ballot, and I think that will give all of us enough time to have the dialogue that's necessary to make sure that there aren't going to be people that fall through the cracks on this. Certainly, I know it is the number one concern of the disabled, is getting around. I also know there's a lot of duplication of services out there and things, but I don't think the amount of time that we're giving them, I mean, it was always our intention, and even our report focuses on the replacement of TARDA, which at this point, I don't know if we're going to. I mean, I think it would be fair to say that if we put it on the ballot, we're not going to replace it with anything. But I believe that that should be left to the voters and not to this board here.
I just have one final comment. I'll go back to Oregon, the city of Oregon. My mother-in-law, God rest her soul, was very ill, and they had no public transportation, and she had to get back and forth to the doctor, and nobody could take her all the time. She had private transportation pick her up, and because of her age and the senior, they gave a discounted rate to pick her up and take her back and forth to all of her appointments. So I'm saying there is something in place that someone would have transportation for. So, I mean, if you vote to take it off the ballot, that's fine, but I'm just going to tell you that people, need to have a choice if they want to vote on this or not. That's all I'm saying.
We're going to give them those choices, but I do also think that we need to get the message out to people that these services are available, and to get them on our website, and to get, if this is the way we want to go. And again, looking at the vote totals, I mean, it's a toss-up here.
I know.
So
that's why I said
it's a very hot topic in the community.
It is.
All right, I guess call the roll, Mr. Simple.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
No.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
I might add that we talked about Mr. Rubino's report, which I put in your in baskets today.
Yes.
I will make copies tomorrow morning and have them available for the public if anybody wants to stop in and get the report.
Get it on the website, too.
Well, it will be on the website, too, but I mean, if somebody wants to read it in paper, I'll have it. Otherwise, we'll put it on the website.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Hearing...
Now we got fiscal officer.
Yeah, Mr. Simcoe. We have Mr. Simcoe with his monthly report, and then we have...
Monthly report, I got the message.
Yes.
I got the message, I can hear. Well, you see our numbers up there, our month-end analysis, and actually, we're slightly down on our revenue in 3 of the funds, but that's really due to the state of Ohio in mid-year eliminating the CAT tax and eliminating them from some of the utility deregulation taxes. And so we anticipated those funds coming, and they were taken from us by the state, and so we're slightly down on our revenues. Our expenditures still came in low. We're happy about that. Again, the departments have done a good job. You note the last sentence that we sometimes budget, to use our fund balance carryovers. We have to do that, but none of the major funds used any of their budget fund carryovers from last year. So again, the departments are working hard to try to keep our revenues and spending under control. Revenues are fairly predictable, but it's the revenues that's always the expenditures. Expenditures are always a question mark, and we're working real hard to do that. Mr. Zeitler is. And Jim Beck keeps after him, too. That's all I have, though. We have one motion. Jim will take care of that.
Thank you. I have one resolution, 12-0112, to approve some payments on some then-and-now certificates. Between the end of the year, when we have all our purchase orders closed, and by the time we get the system closed, and get it back, everything processed, and get it back up running, we have some bills that come in that are dated prior to the point when we can, create purchase orders. So these are some bills that we need to get paid on then-and-now purchase certificates, and they're above the $3,000 mark, so we need to approve them.
I'd like to offer Resolution 12-012, approve payments of the then-and-now purchase certificates.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genoway?
Yes.
Thank you, that's all.
Thanks.
Motion to go.
Hearing of the public on non-specific agenda items. Mr. Al Hayes?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Carol?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question about the charter.
Can you just state your name and...
Carolyn Huber, 5300 Granny Lane. Just clarify my mind. Did you get the full report from Rubino, or did you get a...
I believe this was the report we paid for, so this is the full... There is a phase 2 of the report that we have not authorized him or hired him to do, but this was the report that just kind of describes the service that TARTA provides and his suggestions on creating something to replace TARTA.
And you're going to put that out on the internet?
Tomorrow I'll get on the web.
Could you tell me where it will be?
Administration.
Under administration. Yeah.
Okay, great. And have you put out the charter representative reports?
No.
Can we get that and get that under?
Troy Stevenson had sent, I think, all 3 of the trustees, and I'm not sure who else was CC'd on it, but just giving a recap of the TARTA meetings.
Yeah.
And, I thought they were great, and I don't know, maybe if we could start putting them out
Sure.
there.
Did he email them to you? Or
Yes.
If one of you would email me it, I can then put it on the web.
Number forward to you.
And I mean, he's been a great representative, and again, I kind of look at these board-run organizations, and, they just don't seem to be as getting it as the rest of it. I mean, we make very difficult decisions based on budget up here, and some of these guys don't seem to, and I think Tardif kind of fell in that trap, and I'm glad to hear that their services are improving. I mean, because for a long time, I heard, the service was even terrible. So I'm glad to hear that's improving at least.
Okay, so you'll get Troy's report out here too,
Right.
administration?
Yeah.
Okay, just so I know where to look.
Okay.
Because I've been looking all over and trying to...
Right. Give me some time tomorrow, though.
Okay, that's fine. And, John, one other question.
John, I just forwarded it to you, you got it now.
If you could clarify my mind on this, I don't quite understand, because Sylvania City and the township, two separate entities, they vote separately on Tardif, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we're paying whatever in the city that we voted on, 2.5% or what, 2.5%?
Mills.
Whatever.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, if you guys would opt out, the township, and then you would vote in an amount to pay for the service that you would provide as a substitute, why would the city people be paying twice? I don't know.
The township and, our council here, the township, there's nothing in the law that allows us to put a transportation levy on for the township or for cities. The only levy we could put on is a general operating levy. The city of Sylvania residents are allowed to vote, since they are township residents, for a general operating levy, just as they vote for the fire levy. There are certain exceptions where they don't get to vote, but the general operating, they get to vote, and since we don't have the ability to put a transportation levy on at this point, now that was one of the things we were talking about, that maybe the legislature can change that would allow an exception where just township residents vote. At this point, everybody votes for a general operating.
I got that. And if that happened, would you have the ability to roll it back just for the city residents? So that the city residents, you roll back other things, could you roll it
No.
back just for the...
There's something in the clause, what's it called?
We can't just roll it back for the city, we have to roll it back for the whole entity.
There's a uniformity clause.
Yeah, that's the bad thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it now. Yeah, and please do something with the legislature, because,
We have
Congress say we should...
Well, that's my next statement that I was going to talk about. Are you any more, Carol, or no?
No.
And I told you about the elevator, so we're all set on that for the percentage place? Okay, good.
Hey, Carol, could you imagine if we needed an operating levy in our department, in our general operating levy? We'd have the city of Sylvania voting for it. Let's say the trustees spent all the money.
Yeah.
Then they're gonna have city council vote on us to, it's a serious issue, and that's hence why I voted what I voted with the Tardif thing, because we've gotta get this thing worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I'm fine with that.
And that's all just came to light through Mr. Zeidler's research, and, last week it kind of really set back our plan, and that's what we promised all along, is to have a replacement plan, so I feel a little more comfortable. Kevin, you want to go ahead?
Okay, briefly, I was elected as president of the Lucas County Township Association, all 11 townships. And the reason I ran was because we haven't done anything, and right now the state's agenda is eliminate townships. There's 1,300 plus townships in the state of Ohio. That's over 4,800 employees, elected officials. They want them to join up, merge, get rid of them, let the counties run them, especially municipalities. And to me, people live in the township for one reason only. They want to live there. They don't want to live in the cities. So my goal was in running is to get legislation passed, because in 2013 and 14, does anybody know how many employees are in the EPA right now? 17,000. Did you know by 2015, there's going to be 232,000 employees, federal EPA. They are going to control every little scrap of land, every little entity, and there's no way for townships and small entities to collect this money, because with the going away of the cap tax and the estate taxes, we're going to be losing so much revenue and trying to just scramble. These smaller townships are going to die. So I'm going to go to OTA this year with my agenda in place that I want funding legislation passed to go to the state legislature so we can collect impact fees, whatever fees are necessary, transportation fees, to help out residents in situations like this where people are paying too much and they want to do it themselves because they can afford to, because Richfield is on the outside edges of the 10 Mile Creek. They do their own cleaning, but the same thing, they get backed up too when we get a backup from the city of Toledo, because maybe they haven't done their job. So I'm trying to work on all this legislation through the state, so we get things changed to help us out and being able to be self-containing and take care of ourselves if funding gets worse. So, with that, that's my goal this year.
Good luck.
Thank you. Well, it was pretty good, because David Jones came in with a specific statement saying, we want to eliminate townships. That was a specific statement. Don't you get that out of that meeting, Dave, or no?
Well, he didn't precisely say that, but he talked all around it.
Didn't you get that out of the meeting, yes or no?
That was the gist of it.
Yes.
No question about it, that the state is the auditor, and I think, some of the elected leadership and even the legislature feels that consolidating townships and more or less getting rid of them, they're more of a nuisance. They want to see larger government, larger municipalities. That's the goal, I think.
It is.
Next item on the agenda is the executive session, and I'd like to add one item to it. This afternoon, I had a conversation with our realtor about the sale of land, so I have some
I'd like to
information on
offer
that.
a motion to go into executive session at 8:55 to discuss personnel, zoning department, police department, and real estate.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney? Yes. Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. All right, I would like to offer a motion to come out of executive session at 9:54.
Second. Call the roll, Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. I would like to offer Resolution 12-015, involuntary separation of employment of Tim DeWitt.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. Should I read the...
No, that's okay.
No.
Okay. I would like to offer Resolution 12-016, the promotion of Darrell Grouse to the zoning
Manager.
Manager. Second.
Is that what you did that?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yep.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. We would like, I'd like to offer Resolution 12-017, authorizing Melissa
Don't ask me.
Brzezinski to sign zoning permits.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. And I would like to offer Resolution 12-019, authorizing the police chief to hire another dispatch person.
Second.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. I would like to offer a motion to close the meeting at 10:56. We'll give it.
9:56, sorry.
9:56.
It's long enough as it is.
Who seconded that?
Second.
No one yet. No, just did.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Haddad?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
All right.
Good work, guys.
Hey, no,